Hi everybody, welcome to the Desmond Works channel, and today is an exciting day following the update video that I put out a couple of weeks ago, as it's Colab video day today. And some of you may know the channel Land Chop Rides and John, who has been restoring a Hypermotard 1100, and today's video is the pair of us working together to strip that bottom end as I help demystify for him what sits in that engine and how it comes apart, with a few hints and tips. So as a bit of a quid pro quo, he's far better at the editing and filming on YouTube, as he's been doing this far longer than I have. So I'm going to use his videos and I'm going to sit back and watch it along with you. So enjoy the video and I'll be back at the end to give an update on what the next steps are.
So we're here in Nelly's garage, the engine builder extraordinaire, I like to call him. But he's worked on it. How many years you've been stripping Ducati engines, you say?
Well, the first one I took apart would have been 2009.
2009, you've worked on what, Panigales?
Panigales, 1098s, 999s, 749s, 998s, 916s, 996s, 748s. If it's a Ducati, I've taken it apart.
Well, I've got it about an hour and a half. We spent an hour and a half just looking around the garage chatting. We haven't been here an hour and a half and done nothing yet. We thought we better actually do some work while we're here. So we've got the fabled Ducati engine out the back of the car. We've just unwrapped all the cellophane off it. I haven't touched this for probably a year and a half is when I took this down. We're going to strip it completely today. As I mentioned, what I've decided is, I did a rattle can spray job on this originally. When I bought this bike, the whole project was just to really tighten up the engine a little bit. Now we're going to break this down completely, split the casings. I'm going to get all the casings professionally cerakoted. Crank's going to be balanced. We've got the ported heads to go back on. So basically we're going to be getting down and dirty with the Hypermotard engine and see what we find inside. You said you've had a quick look at the pistons and you said they actually look
pretty clean, pretty tidy.
But we're going to split this down now, crack it open, take bits off of it and sort of run you through a bit of the process really, just to demystify the Ducati engine, because I ain't got a clue.
Okay, so the first bits we'll do is just get off all of the ancillaries on the outside. Off the top we'll take the pistons off, then we'll strip off the alternator side. The biggest problem here is usually taking these nuts off, because they're...
I saw it's a ridiculous amount of, was it 150 newton meters or something?
Oh no, it's more than that. Off the top of my head, you're testing me now, it's 200 and something off the top of my head. So coming off is easy because you just use a rattle gun. So just pop it off. Doing it off is lots of sweaty grunts. So and it does sometimes get quite embarrassing in trying to do that, particularly as you get older and your back gives out more and more often. Similar thing on this side. So it's 180 newton meters on the clutch.
Because we've got the clutch mod, which Tran does. He sent me that as well.
Oh, the silent plate ones.
Reduce the rattle a little bit. Or stop the wear on the actual basket, I think, is the main idea.
Yeah, it just adds a couple of extra plates basically at the back of the clutch, and then you keep the pulled in rattle, but you don't have the rattle constantly.
That's it. Right, it's been a year and a half since I've touched this project, so it's all coming back to me. How many engines you got in bits tucked away in here then? You got,
oh god, lots.
Have you got lots of bits?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's about 6 heads there, and God knows what else, and pistons and barrels. That's the bottom end of my 916 that I started filming as pre-pandemic, and I need to get the barrels away to be
sorted,
recoated.
Oh, recoated.
Yeah, and then up top I've got 6, 7 engines, I think, and then I've got a unit that's got another 5 complete engines in it. Yeah.
What sort of engines are we talking?
Oh, everything. So I've got bits of 996 RS, so race bikes. So I've got Troy Bayliss's cases from Czechoslovakia and Brno when he crashed the engine. Just 749s, 748s, 916, 996, Panigales. I've got a 916 SPS that's going to be a future project. It's a bike that's stripped down that I've just got the bits for, and I want to restore it back to sort of pucker standard, if you like. As you see, like, primary gear just pulls off. Be careful though, because there is a that I'm going to drop. So I'm going to say be careful, and I'm going to throw it all over the floor. So there's a little washer that goes behind your primary gear.
Okay.
So make sure that that goes back in if you're ever doing the build, because otherwise your primary gear will sit too close to the casing.
Okay.
You grind the casing away basically. Right. Then the oil pump is literally 3 bolts. And the bottom. Oh, that's stiff. There we go. And that just pops out from behind the primary drive gear. You just notice there's 2 seals. Again, you've got to be careful. They typically tend to sit in the cases, so you either need to make sure they're in the cases or on the back of there. But if you get a full rebuild kit, you should get new ones of them. Yeah. And again, you'll notice there's one there. Yeah. That is the oil feed into the clutch case.
Okay.
Basically, it comes out of there, comes into your case, and then it goes up. Right. And where this end of the crankshaft sits in the end of your clutch case, it puts the oil feed that goes into your big end bearings.
Okay.
So, and that's why that's a critical seal, because if that goes, you're gonna drop your oil into your com rods, and they're gonna slowly melt away and cause you a very expensive rebuild bill. Lock washer out.
I like to see you got the same Ducati special tools as I've got. The chisel's out. The chisel's out.
Right, so we'll leave that side for now.
Yeah.
And you notice I've just left that on there. So it's pretty much like your traditional sort of flywheel holding tool that you'd find on a Jap bike.
Yeah.
But this locks to the cases, which just makes it a little bit easier.
Oh, it bolts into the...
Yeah.
Lovely. Another special tool I ain't got.
Just need to stop it spinning, basically. Big gun.
Big gun's out.
There we go. So not only do you have a massive torque applied to it when it's built, but you also have Loctite holding it in as well. So it can be a bit of a bitch to get that off. So that's your intermediate timing shaft.
Right.
And so that's a once only use sort of nut. And you'll always know a cheap rebuild if you've seen one of those been reused.
Oh, really?
So the drive belt, pulley, spacer, first gear wheel, then a key. Ooh. And that come off easier than I thought. I thought that would dry for a little bit. And this one is held in by lock washer.
Oh, okay.
So the lock washer's got a little tang that sits in against the gear.
Yeah.
What you got to be careful of is when you're tightening them up, sometimes if you don't put a little bit of oil on it, each side of it, it will grab it and turn it and split that off.
Right, okay, good tip.
That is on a like a chamfer basically.
Okay, so
it's well and truly wellied on.
You need a puller for that then.
And you need a special puller. So that just sits in there like so.
I'm glad I came to you already and didn't tackle this myself.
I always get the questions about, could you do it without the special tools? I mean, you can build an engine without special tools. Yeah. All the special tools do is make it easier for you to build the engine. Yeah. And that's the piece that people forget is, you could find a way to get that off with standard bearing pullers, but
and you risk damaging the teeth. And
it's hard to do because usually you get free leg pullers, so you're not going to be able to get in on that side. No. You risk damaging the case if it jumps. Yeah. So if you're doing more than one engine, it's worth sort of spending the 80 quid for the proper tool. But again, you could possibly find a way to do it. You could always do garage mechanics, I think. No, bush mechanics, as some people call it, don't they? Right, so this is a bit nerving. So that's got a bit of pressure on it. And it does tend to spring, so just be careful, because sometimes it goes with quite force. And sometimes they've been on here that long. I think what I'm going to do on this one, just to be safe, let's put a bit of heat on the wheel first. So just going to heat this up a little bit to get the gear wheel to expand. Yeah. Just takes off a little bit of that stiction. You don't have to put a lot of heat in there, just a small amount of heat transference will just allow it to expand just a little bit, make our job a bit easier. I did say an hour.
Clock's ticking.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not Obviously you have to be careful about how much force you can
of course.
put in it, because it's the end of the crank.
I see what you mean.
That's why I don't like that job.
Yeah, quick on your feet anyway.
It's still warm.
Yeah, it's still warm, isn't it?
So that very small amount of heat applied makes quite a difference. All right, and drop the key.
It's never just where you want it, is it?
Oh, there it is. There we go. Just as I was going to give up.
Well done, that man.
Where that sat on there, just see over the period of time, it's just sort of like.
Is that like a bush on there? Is that actually no? It's actually part of the crank.
Yeah, it's part of the crank. It's part of the crank. Yeah. Just sits hard up against the backside of the crank. And then what you've got there, that's the primary gear drive. So what's going basically to your drive, and then that back gear wheel drives your oil pump. Right. So this side is completely ready to split.
Pull off.
Yeah. Because although we've still got the keys and the retaining clip in the intermediate shaft, we'll release it fully on the other side so the cases can still split off. Yeah. Right, so what we'll do now is we'll take the pistons off because they're easily accessible. Okay. And that's only a case of just pulling out the circlips. So all it is, standard circlip piece. So little space to get sharp implement in. Just lift it out.
Because this is another thing Twan said. He said you really need to put the pistons into the heads, and then
you do.
You can damage. He said you can damage the rings quite easily if you try and do it.
It's better when you disassembling is not an issue because you pop the cylinder off. It's there as you can see. And just take out. When you're putting it back together, have all the rings compressed, gapped properly inside the cylinder, and then you drop the cylinder on. Yeah. And then put it a bit messy because you've got the gasket sealant at the bottom when you're putting it together. I thought
if you haven't got the feel for how you actually put the circlips in, you're going to be struggling to try and do it, and then it'll fall in the engine. You know, I could just see it dropping in the engine. It'd be like, oh my god.
Pretty standard wear. No burning underneath the piston, so you've not had any overheating issues. If you get burning underneath the piston, it's a sign that the engine's been overheating because the oil on the bottom of the piston burns, and then you get a bit of carbon build up there. You'd expect that.
Yeah.
And actually, that's a pretty nice burn.
Yeah.
So you've got some carbon on the very outside, but you've got a very clean burn there. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming you've not touched this, but I haven't, it looks to be nicely running engine, really.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
When you put new piston ring clips in, you should always put new ones of these in because they work on sort of expansion like a spring. So yeah, nothing standard sort of wear.
Yeah.
No scoring on the piston skirts.
That's it. I think it had 4,500 miles, so it hasn't done much.
And again, pretty nice combustion as well. Yeah. So whoever had it pretty well set up.
Yeah.
So this all should pop off because we've taken the nut off. All one big assembly.
Yeah.
So you've got your starter sprag, so that does come out. That's the sprag bearing you'll hear people talk about.
Sprag bearing, okay.
And this is in lovely condition actually. Now what you're looking for on there is any sort of dents or pitting.
Yeah.
Now if that was the case, you'd need a new wheel and a new bearing, but you've got nice uniform wear across there, so it's not laboured at all. And actually, although the oil's in quite good condition, so it's been a good quality oil in there as well.
It's all sounding good. This is all things you just don't know, do you? Until you strip it down, you don't know what you've got, do you?
Well, you're always running the risk of taking somebody engines apart.
Really, do you know what I mean? Is if I'm going to do all this work, let's make sure it's all done properly.
You've got the spacer, so this is the needle bearing that the flywheel sits on. Got a little spacer washer. And then you'll notice here we've got the main drive gear. If I can turn that now, I probably can't. Well, anyway, what I was going to do is align that with, you've got a timing mark there and a timing mark there. When you turn those around.
So that's got factory paint on it there, is it just to mark?
Yeah, in fairness, the factory markings tend to stay throughout the life inside the engine. It's
what the hell's that? It's like a marshmallow in there. That's a bit of my... how's that got in there?
Oh, did you cover that? Oh, it's where the timing mark goes. Yeah. I was thinking, God, you've used an engine for that long with a piece of paper in it.
I was like, what the hell is that?
That just pops off. Okay, there's another key in the shaft there. That's probably quite solid. And then what you can see that's left here now, that we've got to take off, we've got the intermediate timing shaft drive gear.
Yep.
So you can see that's just another tab washer.
Tab wash, yeah.
Gear selector fork, which is only held on by 2. And then we got the starter wheel, which is bolted in. That's the first time I've seen that assembly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's evidently a slightly later engine. Normally what you've got is a boss that sits in here that has 2 cutouts in it, and then use a circlip to hold this wheel in.
Right.
But obviously this is bolted.
Yeah.
I was just slightly nervous as it was coming out because
Yeah, no,
it was bound by the
Loctite,
Loctite, but no, it's all good. Now there's a few bits you need to check on this when it comes out.
Okay.
So when it comes apart, you're obviously checking that it's got spring tension.
Right.
Not this big one here, but just this little return spring here. And then what you're looking for is any rounding on the end of these little drive teeth. And they look good. They're pretty sharp. I mean, there's some polishing when they've been used, but they've certainly not ground away. So that's good to keep.
Good.
And they basically just operate on the back of these teeth in this gap here.
Right.
And that's what drives your selector drum round to select your gears.
Right.
And again, you've got one of these really delicate washers that you need to be, so we'll use new ones when we put this in, but again, this little tang that sits in there, if somebody doesn't, if they fit this dry and it catches with the nut, that rips off, and that's what can cause this to back out.
Right, and then you don't know that's happened.
No, you won't know it's happened until you lose your timing. Loosen that off. Again, there's a little key, so we will need to get that key out, because that will stop that shaft from pulling through.
Lotus Esprit V8 twin turbo. We spent an hour talking about the cars, didn't we? Before we even got onto the bikes.
Funny how most motorcyclists are petrol heads that like cars as well as.
No.
Oh, there you go.
You see him?
Yep, got it. Yeah, it's not been apart before,
No.
which is a good sign. You can tell that because it's got the factory Loctite on every internal bolt.
And the guy, when I had it, he even had the baffle running in the Termi. So.
Oh, did he?
No, yeah. So.
Not a proper Ducati owner then, no.
He wasn't your normal hypermotard hooligan, you know what I mean? He had the baffle.
Always up on one wheel, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the front tyre was even bald, so it's wrong. Yeah, that's it.
There you go, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So there's a gasket that sits there.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's not been apart because personally when I put these back together, I always put a little bit of free bond on these as well.
And they don't from the factory.
So they're dry from the factory.
Yeah, I'll take that away and I'll repaint that.
Okay, so it's ready to split apart.
That's it, ready to split already?
Yeah, that's it.
How many bolts we got holding it together now?
Right, so there are one here, one there.
Yeah.
And we'll just pop those now, and then on the other side is the vast majority of the bolts, and then we've got obviously the outer case bolts as well, but these are the main case bolts basically. The ones we're going to be taking out here are the M8s that do the job of applying the torque in the right places.
With you.
And they're only done to 25 newton meters, I think, something like that off the top of my head. They're quite loose. Obviously on that side, that's everything done case-wise, so we just flip it back over. Right, and now you get into the masses that we have to take off. So you've got internal and external bolts. So internally, we've got a couple more M8s and then an oil feed one. This one's always the first one I take out because it's hollow.
Right, okay.
So I take that one out so you're not putting any extra tension on it when the case is pulling slightly. Then you've got a couple of M6s, and then you've got M6s all the way round.
Yeah. 2
more M8s, and then another M6 at the top of the case.
Very pretty.
We loosen all the M6s first because they're obviously the weaker bolts.
Yeah.
God, they're tight. Right, so let's just buzz these out.
Right, okay, so now we've got to split the cases. So what I'm just going to do is a couple of bits that I like to do before we split.
Yeah.
Ew. You're right, there's a bit of sludge there. Let's get the strainer out on this side. Couple of little bits of metallic debris. It's not unexpected. That's obviously the gauze of the actual strainer, so there's nothing to worry. I mean, that's probably one of the cleanest I've seen in a long time, actually. Yeah. Normally you get quite a lot of build debris, like there you can see like the instant gasket material. You usually get quite a bit of that. But I mean, if it's been serviced, it would have been cleaned regularly. So I suppose it's not that surprising. The only thing that's holding it together now is you've got a dowel there.
Yeah.
There's another dowel here.
Okay.
And then it's just the instant gasket that sits around it. So it should come apart quite good. Oh, actually, that might have already split. Looking at the way that oil's coming out of the centre.
Coming out the actual joint.
Yeah, we might get lucky here.
Might get lucky.
John, this might be a quick pop apart one. Right. There you go. She's popping already.
Popping already. You can hear it change sound, kind of tone, can't you, when it goes.
There we go.
Sounds like it. Look at that. She's apart.
She's apart. Nothing bad in there actually. It's just getting the parts out of there now.
Just pulling it out the other side basically.
Crank just pulls up.
Right, hang on, that's the crank.
And we'll pop that apart in a second to have a look at the big ends.
Okay.
Take out your selector fork. That means you can get the selector drum out.
Okay.
And again, there's shims on both ends. So make sure you grab that shim.
Okay.
And then there's that shim at the top end there as well. Looking at the selector forks, you're looking for wear on the back and front. Check if there's any wear on the leading edges. And they're in really nice condition actually. I think it reflects the fact that, like you say, the mileage is kind of low. There's little bits of wear, but clean edges.
Nothing to worry.
Nothing to worry about at all. I think here. Let's just get the last one just before I eat my words.
Yeah.
No, good. Definitely happy with those.
Makes a change. I normally get stitched up, and I've got the dog. So this is a nice change.
We do get the gear cluster out.
Lift it out.
Just lift it out. So there's a couple of bits you're looking for on your gears. So you got the dogs, which are the bits that drive into and each out of each gear. So they're the bits that sort of like your selector forks are moving in and out. So you're just looking for any sort of wear. They look pretty good. And then on the teeth, you're just looking for any sort of signs of pitting or damage or broken teeth, and you've got nothing there. These are really nice actually. And then that one, same again, looks really good. So again, you're looking for where so you've got a little bit of burring. So somebody's jumped gears a couple of times, but you know, you're just looking to see, do you have clean faces? Again, no massive issues. A little bit of wear marks on some of the gear teeth, but it's all even. There's no pitting. Yeah, so you're good. Go at all.
Is it really what that pink's done?
Just means you don't drop loads of oil all over your car.
There we go then. Engines apart. John's away with the cases to get them cerakoted. I'm going to pull together all the rotating parts that attach to the crank, so you can also get that away to Andrew's Precision to be lightened and balanced. And then the next video we do together will be pulling together the cerakoted cases, the balance crank and components, the heads that Twan at Bigelow Performance has polished and ported for him, and then some various bits and pieces, consumable items and bearings from Ducati, and then we'll be putting that engine together. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, chuck us a like. Any questions or comments, stick them down below. Plenty more content to come, so please hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and I'll see you at the next video. Thanks for watching. Cheers then. Bye.